So I have played this game to completion. Jeremy, have you played it?
No.
Okay. So Resident Evil 3, the story so far is Jill Valentine escapes the crumbling Raccoon City. Well, that's not really that's the IMDb story or IMDb synopsis, but it's actually the entire game is you attempting to escape Raccoon City. So I don't know why it says that, but this follows Resident Evil 1. This takes place between Resident Evil 1 and 2. And the entire game, while you're trying to escape the city, you're being chased by a biological weapon called Nemesis. And the reason that this is happening is because Raccoon City, the big corporation that caused the T. Did I say Raccoon City? The Umbrella Corporation caused the outbreak, and they're trying to contain it. And since one of the cops survived, actually, Chris and Jill both survived, but they create.
Is there any breakdown how an Umbrella Corporation started making viruses instead of just umbrellas?
Wesker and his slick hair goes through the whole thing in Resident Evil 1.
Were they trying to make an umbrella that like grows out of microbes?
Oh, why it's called Umbrella Corporation?
That was just a joke. It was a pun, Dan.
It went right over my head. So
like an umbrella.
Heyo. So
this is top-notch comedy.
Oh yeah. So in this game, I had a really good time with it, but one thing that I really liked was it crosses over with Resident Evil 2. Like there's one point, it takes place in Raccoon City, essentially sprawling across the city, you trying to escape with a couple of Umbrella agents. And it takes place partially in the police station where the entirety of Resident Evil 2 takes place. So you see in Resident Evil 2, there's a cop that helps you out, but ends up, going full zombie and attacks you, and unfortunately, you have to put him down. It's very sad. But it shows how he gets bitten in this one. It's really, it ties it all nice and neat. So I want to start with gameplay. They stopped with the, what do you call it, fixed camera angles?
Yes.
Did you ever play a Resident Evil with the fixed cameras? You said you played 5, but that one was a third person.
No, I've only played Resident Evil 5.
Okay. So the fixed camera angles make controlling the game really difficult, but it makes the suspense of the horror like really ramped up because you can't peek around any corners or, there's this really funny thing where if there's a zombie, you want to try and like get space between you and the zombie, and you can't see him, but because he's off camera, and you're standing there holding your gun out, just waiting for him to get into shot, and sometimes it's too late. It really helps with the suspense, but the gameplay going back, it's so stony. It feels just so bad. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but this one does it takes Resident Evil 2 and it's essentially the same engine, same graphics, same everything. I did play this on my PS4 Pro. It has the classic survival horror item management. You have your classic item box, and you have to decide which items to take with you, whether or not to expend your ammo or dodge an enemy. They did add this really cool rolling feature to the game where if you properly time a dodge, you won't get attacked, of course, but it really did help, especially I started
Resident
playing
Evil Souls.
Yeah. And my wife was sitting here while I was playing it, and I'm like, I took down the Taken King, bitch. You ain't got nothing on me. When like I was talking trash to the game. She's just looking at me sideways. It's great. But I don't know. I think they added this because Nemesis is always chasing you. You don't really need it as much for the zombies, but you can. It's a lot less accurate with the zombies because they do kind of like a lunge thing. So if you're trying to roll away from them, they'll still grab you, but if you roll like kind of through them, you'll dodge them more frequently. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just trying to look and see what you were saying about the setup, and it seems like putting the Resident Evil 3 on high settings
Hmm.
was very graphics card intensive. So
Okay.
you can put it on a, what are they using here? You can put it on a 1060, which is not an expensive card right now, and you will get a max frame rate 99.9% of the time. But
Sweet.
when it does drop, it's gonna chug.
Okay. Gotcha. So, do you think on PC the best settings would be to aim for 30 FPS?
Um, well, a lot of people don't enjoy playing games at 30 FPS, so it's really just going to be dependent on how you value those sort of things.
Sure.
Certain games I notice when my frame rate drops. Other games I do not notice.
Okay.
But I generally try to get a fixed frame rate because it will mess with me a little bit if I'm trying to turn and I'm getting like any chopping at all.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not super sensitive to motion blur, but if I'm trying to be very precise, then it will bother me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really notice the motion blur either on certain games, especially something like Breath of the Wild. People were complaining a lot about it, and it's barely noticeable unless you're looking for it. So, I don't know. But
But I,
anyway,
I do notice I do notice a performance or skill difference when I'm able to like turn down the graphics and get rid of motion blur. I notice I'm a lot better at dodging and timing in games that are kind of fighter-esque.
sure. That makes sense. So the nemesis who's chasing you the entire game, I mean, I would say 20% of the game he's on your screen. And that's not an exaggeration. He's the first, the middle, the last boss. I don't think there's another boss in the game than the nemesis, but they do a good job of changing it up. He kind of mutates as the game goes along. So they even though it's technically the same enemy, it's a different fight each time. So I'll take it. Um, in terms of replayability, I did start a second playthrough. I wanted to get a better score, and they do have unlockables. So after each time you beat the game, you get a certain amount of points, and you can put those points towards upgrades. So, for instance, you could start with more item slots in your next playthrough, or if you save up enough points, you could get infinite rocket launcher, which is what I'm working for. It sounds like it'll be just the most ridiculous game. So I think it's like 60,000 points, and you'll start with an infinite rocket launcher, which will be amazing. So,
That's
mhm.
that is a lot of rockets.
Yeah. One little tip out there for anyone who's going to play this, who hasn't touched it yet, is grenades will stun the nemesis. If you hit him with a grenade, he'll drop to one knee and you can escape. Grenades are like I have a grenade launcher, right? And I'm just peppering this dude over and over, and he's just walking through them. I'll hit incendiary grenades, acid grenades, whatever. But if you throw just a regular hand grenade, it devastates them. It's crazy. So just a little tip for you. And other than that, I'd say gameplay is really fun. The problem though is the game is very short, and I'm sure every single person who's ever reviewed this game has said the same thing. But I beat the game, and I'm not like a speedrunner by any stretch of the imagination. I beat it for the first time in about 5.5 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which for a $60 game is very short. Too short, I would say. If they
That
charge me $30,
Mhm.
I'd be happy. But in terms of value, it's it's really hard to sell. I would say wait for a sale, especially if you get one of these PlayStation, Xbox sales. One for instance, Death Stranding right now is $30. So if you get something like that, I think that's the perfect price for this game. Would be 30. And Jeremy and I had quite a lengthy discussion about, digital and physical game prices, but $60 is just way too much. Especially I bought it digitally, so I don't even technically own the game. Just kind
so
of renting it until they decide to remove it from the PlayStation Store.
So that's your review on Resident Evil 3, a bargain at half the price.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it would be a bargain at half the price. I think it would be a
Acceptable
regular
at half the
a
price.
regular deal. Yeah. So the graphics are great. The gameplay is fun. The game is too short. The story ties in pretty nicely. And oh, one other thing I want to say about the police station is so, there are a bunch of safes in the police station when you play Resident Evil 2. And if you unlock them, you get the items, whatever. If you play in Resident Evil 3 and you go through and you unlock all the safes and everything, it's the same items that it was in Resident Evil 2, which is awesome. So, and also there's one point in Resident Evil 2 where there's like a hole in the shower. And in this game it shows why there's a hole in the shower. So it ties in really nicely. So I really enjoyed that aspect. But all in all, I would say this is solid 8.5 out of 10. It's worth the pickup, but I wouldn't get it at full price. Well, sorry, I would get it at full price. I wouldn't recommend anyone else does because I'm an idiot. So, but it was fun, and I'm playing through it again. I'm probably gonna get another playthrough or two so I can get that infinite rocket launcher and have a little fun with that. But other than that, I'm really conflicted because the game was a lot of fun. It was just there wasn't enough of it. So take that as you will.